Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here. Welcome back to another one of our Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition Path to Glory campaign games. If this is the first one that you've ever seen, if you are starting here, I recommend you go back and watch some of the early ones. This one's going to be a little bit different. It's not really indicative of how these games normally go. But with that said, we are on Game 3 of Round 3, the Breakthrough scenario. Once again, I'll be using my chaos-worshipping warband, the Louts of Chaos, drunk and disorderly in that we really don't like the forces of order. It's led by my chaos champion, Sir Osis of the Liver. He is mounted on a barded chaos steed named Horsey. He's got chaos armor, a shield, a throwing axe, and the Axe of Khorne, which gives him killing blow. He also has the Blessing of Khorne, which allows him to dispel a spell once per game. He has the Mark of Khorne, which gives him Frenzy, and he has a Deafening Drunken Bellow, which gives his opponents a -1 to hit on the turn that he charges. The rest of the louts consist of the Booze Hound, a Chaos Hound, 6 Marauders with hand weapon and shield, the Marinated Meat Shields, an Ogre with additional hand weapon, Scalding Blood Porridge, a Minotaur with a great weapon, Dunchlitz, 4 Chaos Marauders with additional hand weapons, the Leg Biters, Herald Drownsodden, my chosen, also with additional hand weapon, and the Pitmen, 2 Chaos Warriors with hand weapon and shield. This is the opposing warband for this game, and oh boy. My opponent has been doing a pretty good job at cracking the code to the Path to Glory rules. This was previously an undivided warband, but he switched allegiances at the beginning of this campaign round. You are allowed to do that once per game. You can go from either undivided to a chaos power, or from a chaos power to undivided. So this is now a Tzeentch worshipping warband. I accuse my opponent of running through all the best undivided chaos attributes that he picked up for his chaos champion, and then moving on to a different chaos power so that he could pick up another good set of chaos advancements. Turns out that's not the case. He actually switched allegiances for a different filthy reason, because he really wanted a chaos spawn with a breath weapon. He hasn't got that yet though, but he has raided quite a few good chaos powers. So his chaos champion is also mounted on a chaos barded steed with the chaos armor and shield and a throwing axe. He has picked himself up a demon weapon, an extra arm, and he gets rerolls to hit on the first round of combat. Worse yet, he has absolutely been tearing up the other warbands and has gotten himself a bunch of Tzeentch advancements, including he is now a level 1 wizard with the Infernal Gateway spell, and he has regeneration. I'm not sure exactly what his stats are, but I'm pretty sure he has 4 attacks, a toughness of 5, a strength of 6, and at least 3 wounds. For the rest of his warband, most significantly, he has a Chaos Sorcerer that he put on Metal Magic and has the Searing Doom spell. This is an upgradable magic missile that ignores the normal to wound rules and instead wounds you on your armor save and allows no armor save in return, which just about makes it instant death for any Chaos Champions or Chaos Warriors that he can get into line of sight. He's also got a Chaos Troll, 2 units of 3 Chaos Hounds, 4 Chaos Warriors, 3 with great weapons, 1 with a flail, and 7 Chaos Marauders just with a hand weapon. So before this round started, I had an aggressive strategy with my Chaos Champion. I figured that I could send him into the heart of the opponent's army and just try and seek out the opposing Chaos Champion and hope that my killing blow and striking first would do the damage and allow me to take them out. This isn't going to work against this warband, in my opinion. Number 1, Infernal Gateway and Searing Doom would probably kill him instantly. I can automatically dispel one of those spells with my Blessing of Khorne, but I have learned from rounds past that only helps you so much. And my assessment for how well I thought my guy would do in hand-to-hand combat has been radically altered with this guy picking up a 4+ regeneration. Now I think it's much less likely that my champion beats his in hand-to-hand combat, and in fact my whole warband would have a tough time against him. On top of that, this is the breakthrough scenario, meaning one player is the attacker and gets an additional victory condition where they will win if they get 1/3 of their warband off the opposing table edge. We diced off randomly, and unfortunately, my opponent is the attacker, so I don't have that route to victory. If I'm going to win, I'm going to have to outfight him. This warband's previous 2 opponents this round tried and failed to do that. I am going to go with a different tactic. The advantage that I have in this game is my opponent's warband rating is well over 10 of mine, so that means that no matter what else happens, I get a bonus 5 favor points. That means that even if my opponent wins this game, if neither of us pick up any additional victory conditions, I will walk away with 7 favor points and he'll walk away with 4. My hope being that over time I can starve him of favor points and eventually get my warband on a more even footing. So, since I can't quit the battlefield until I've taken 5 casualties, I'm going to hide all my most important stuff, wait for me to lose that 5 models, and then take off, hopefully with a healthy favor point advantage. My opponent deployed first. As usual, he has put his weaker Chaos Hounds on the flanks, his stronger characters in the center, flanked by his 2 infantry units. We determined before the game that the hills block line of sight, so I have placed all my best stuff and the Booze Hound behind the hill on the right, out of sight of his 2 wizards. So that is Sir Osis, my champion, Harold Drownsodden, my chosen, the 2 Chaos Warriors, the Pitmen, and of course the Booze Hound is lurking back there as well. Everyone else can hang out a bit more visibly. I've got Dunchlitz the Minotaur on the hill to the right. If my opponent is incautious, maybe I'll attempt to charge with him. The Legbiters are in the building on the left. The Marinated Meat Shields are to the left of them, and out of frame I've got Scalding Blood Porridge. I'm just looking to soak up casualties, ideally with the Marauders, and maybe threaten a few countercharges with the Minotaur and the Ogre. My opponent gets the first turn as per the scenario rules. I don't think that he knows that I'm planning on just taking off, but he has definitely assessed that there is no reason for him to attempt the victory conditions of the scenarios. He's just going to castle up in the corner and start lobbing spells. So the hounds on the right move left, everyone just kind of tucks into that corner. And we start into the magic phase where he rolls double 6 for the Winds of Magic. He starts off with a 6-die Searing Doom from his Chaos Sorcerer onto Scalding Blood Porridge. This is the high-level version, of course. I kind of mess up. I meant to spend my Dispel dice to cancel Infernal Gateway. I just wasn't listening, and I thought he was casting Infernal Gateway, but it was Searing Doom instead. Doesn't really matter. I failed to dispel the spell. Since Scalding Blood Porridge only has light armor, Searing Doom only wounds on a 6+, but he does get 2 wounds through. And it turns out I might as well have rolled those dispelled dice against Searing Doom, because then he rolls 6 dice for Infernal Gateway against the Marinated Meat Shields, and he gets Irresistible Force. The Meat Shields only lose 3 of their number from Infernal Gateway, which seems like very few. They do fail their toughness test for the lore attribute of the Lore of Tzeentch, and so they lose an additional model, which brings me up to 4 casualties, 1 away from the number I need to run away. They also passed their panic test, and now we're on to the miscast table, and my opponent rolls the bad one. Dimensional Cascade. Holy moly, this could be a big deal. The big pie plate template comes down. The only person underneath it is the champion and the Chaos Sorcerer. Both of them take a wound. The champion fails his regeneration save. And then the important dice roll comes down on a 1, 2, or 3. The Chaos Champion is sucked into the warp and removed as a casualty. That could be a big deal. All of a sudden, my opponent would lose the majority of his combat potential, and I would feel free to jump out from my hiding places and really put the pressure on my opponent. Not only that, because Chaos Champion is a spellcaster now, I'd get a bonus 4 favor points, 2 for killing off the enemy champion, 2 for killing off an enemy wizard, but he rolls the 4+, and the champion lives. So close. So it's over to Louts of Chaos, turn 1, and really I'm only just going to hang out waiting for that 5th casualty to come in. I am going to move Scalding Blood Porridge back because I'd rather it not be him. I don't want to take an injury roll on my valuable Chaos Ogre. The Legbiters and the Meat Shields stay where they are. My opponent has abandoned the right-hand flank, so I don't see any real reason not to advance a bit with Dunchlitz and Sir Osis. Sir Osis takes cover on the building as he makes a long flanking maneuver to the right. Dunchlitz takes a more direct approach, seeing if he can maybe tempt a charge from that Chaos Troll. Worst case scenario, he gets charged and he dies and I get my 5th casualty. Best case scenario, I take out a Chaos Troll and I wouldn't mind my opponent losing that as well. With no magic or shooting on my side of the table, we go back to the Tzeentch warband and they continue their castling maneuver in the far left-hand corner. The wounded Chaos Champion does wander out a bit looking for more victims. My strongest fighters are over on the right, so there's very little threat in him doing this. It's time for the magic phase, and he rolls another nice power score number, a 10 in this case, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Really, at this point, I'm hoping for a nice miscast to take the last wound off of that Chaos Sorcerer. A, that gives me bonus favor points, and B, I'd just like to see that guy die. The Chaos Sorcerer starts with a big Searing Doom on Dunchlitz the Minotaur, and he gets Irresistible Force again, which is perfect. Even better, he doesn't come up with a single 6 to wound Dunchlitz. Unfortunately, the miscast is only that he loses his remaining power dice, so I don't see any of his guys die. So back over to my turn, and with my opponent's champion committed to the left-hand side of the battlefield, I decide to make a break for it. I'm not sure this is a good idea or not, but I'd really like to, having been given the opportunity, to put pressure on that castle and maybe see if I can't run Dunchlitz or Sir Osis into that castle to try and get at that Chaos Sorcerer. I would have loved to have had them join together in one unit, but they weren't quite close enough, so they just go their separate ways and advance on the extreme right-hand flank of my opponent's forces. Yeah, their wizards can see me now, but I do still have the Blessing of Khorne, so I think I'm in with a shot of being able to keep them safe. To put a little pressure on the Chaos Champion and to just give him a target that is less valuable than some of my other stuff, the remainder of the Marinated Meat Shields walk right in front of him. My Legbiters leave the building and hustle a little to the right, looking to take advantage of any opportunities that Dunchlitz and Sir Osis cause. Scalding Blood Porridge continues his retreat to that statue on the far bottom left, and the Boozehound, Harold Drownsodden, and the Pitman all stay behind the hill where it's safe. Yeah, I could have advanced them out, but this game is probably going to be decided by the time they get into a position to do something. No magic, no shooting from me, so back to the Tzeentch turn. The troll passes stupidity and charges into Dunchlitz. His Chaos Champion declines the opportunity to charge into the meat shields, and instead he has his Chaos Hounds clip the corner of him. For the remainder of his moves, his castle just repositions a little bit, and his Chaos Champion turns right to face the threatened flank. The winds of magic die down a little bit, and he only gets a 6-die magic phase. He decides to tempt fate a little bit and dump all 6 of those dice into a Searing Doom on Sir Osis. I'm fine with this because I can automatically dispel a spell with the Blessing of Khorne, but against all probability, he gets a 3rd Irresistible Force. There have been 3 rounds in this game, 3 magic phases. He has gotten Irresistible Force all 3 times, so he pushes the Searing Doom through and kills Sir Osis. Can't dispel Irresistible Force. My hope is that this will at least kill off that Chaos Sorcerer, but I was to be disappointed. The miscast results in him losing a level, so there goes Searing Doom, but the damage has been dealt. Much like in a previous game, losing that spell once it's killed off my Chaos Champion doesn't really help me. Things continue to go badly for me for the rest of this phase. The troll charges in and causes 1 wound to Dunchlitz. Dunchlitz strikes back with his great weapon. He causes 2 wounds to the troll, and the troll regenerates them both. Having lost by 2, Dunchlitz breaks from the combat and is run down. Much the same thing happens over on the left flank. 2 very evenly matched characters face off against each other, a single Marauder and a single Chaos Hound. I cause no wounds to the hounds kill a marauder, the marauders are down by 2, they break, flee, and are also run down, the hounds overrunning into the Legbiters. Those were 2 very dicey combats that both went in my opponent's favor. With the addition of him killing off my Chaos Champion, I decide that's enough for me and I voluntarily rout. So that didn't work out great. My goal was to either lose a small number of low-level characters and then take off, or to be able to push through and get a good fight in with my opponent. Neither of those 2 things happened. I pushed forward on the flank, lost my valuable Minotaur and my champion, ended up taking 8 casualties before routing without causing any damage to my opponent whatsoever. It also allowed him to pick up a bonus 2 victory points for killing off my champion, raising his total to 6. I still grabbed my 7 favor points, which I guess means that I came out a little bit ahead, but that was more than offset in the casualty rolls, where although Sir Osis and Dunchlitz came out without a scratch, 4 of my Marauders ended up dying. That's a lot of 1s being rolled. I reroll 1 of those casualty rolls with a favor point so that I can keep 3 Shield Marauders to keep as a separate unit. And I shouldn't complain too much, because what I was doing is not really how the game was meant to be played. I was trying to game the situation and come out without very many casualties and just grab a bunch of favor points on my way. But I pushed my luck and tried to move forward with Dunchlitz and Sir Osis, and it would have probably worked out fine if my opponent hadn't rolled Irresistible Force for that Searing Doom. Really, that last round, my opponent got all the rolls that he needed at exactly the right time when he needed them. And his is a warband that really doesn't need the help in that regard. Speaking of which, the round is now over, so in addition to any advancements that we might get, this is usually the time where we start spending favor points to get rolls on the followers table and add more troops to our warbands. Granted, it took my opponent a couple favor points to do this, but he got everything that he wanted. Sure enough, he got his spawn with the breath weapon that he really wanted. He also got an advancement on his Chaos Champion called Distended Maw. So now if he's able to put 3 wounds on a model before armor or ward saves, he immediately kills it. And he has got 4 attacks at strength 6 with rerolls to hit on the first round. This champion is a real problem. If he doesn't blow himself off the table with a miscast or fail a panic test and run away, he's most likely going to be able to sail through anything that we throw at him. Oh, and he also grew some horns. Another attack. And, because he is now a follower of Tzeentch, he's allowed to have up to 9 mutations instead of the normal 5 that the rest of the warbands are limited to before they turn into a chaos spawn. And that's good for him, because I think he's up to 4 mutations. But that's enough about him. Who cares about him? Let's talk about Sir Osis and the rest of the Louts. With those 7 favor points, Sir Osis does get 2 more rolls on the advancement table, in which he gains +1 weapon skill and +1 initiative. Clearly, that's not horns or distendable maw, but it does mean that now he strikes first before that Tzeentch Chaos Champion, so there is a chance that he can still cut his head off with a killing blow if they were ever to meet again. And this round really wasn't bad for me getting favor points. I'm going to start off my followers recruitment with 1 roll on follower chart 2, the chart with the big things on it. The first roll results in a bloodletter. Costing 4 favor points, plus of course the 2 to roll on followers table 2, a bloodletter's not great. 1 attack, toughness 3, some nice special rules, but really he's not going to change the course of any battles. Still, this is a model I'd kind of like. I'd like to add a bloodletter to my force, and who knows, as games go on, 1 bloodletter is not very significant, but 3 or 4 of them? With Killing Blow, those could be a problem. So that was 6 points spent. I still had a bunch of favor points left over, so I went ahead and rolled on follower chart 2 again. The idea being I'll roll on that until I think it's unlikely I'll be able to afford something that I get, and then I'll go down to Chaos Follower chart 1. Well, that all kind of goes out the window when I roll up a spawn. The corn spawns are not nearly as good as the other ones. They get devastating charge, which means they get 1 extra attack on the charge, and since they move slower than almost anything in the game, and their attacks are only strength 4, it's not very impressive. But again, this is a model I kind of want. I'd really like to paint up a cool chaos spawn to join the rest of the warband, and so I spend all of my remaining favor points in order to pick him up. This is a dangerous situation. This means going into the next game, I will probably have very few favor points at the end. So if I get some bad advancement rolls, like I turn into a spawn, or I get some bad injury rolls where I lose important guys, I will have less ability to use favor points to mitigate those results. So I am not really sure this is a good idea. I have picked up some very cool models. I'm very happy with how they look, but they don't really help the warband with what it needs. What I probably should have done is rolled on follower table 1 and tried to get a bunch of Marauder Horsemen or Chaos Hounds, something that I can hide Sir Osis in to protect him from all that magic. But this is me just really looking forward to the rematch with this Tzeentch warband. Relatively speaking, the Louts of Chaos are doing pretty well. Certainly much better than the Nurgle warband, which had a really rough round. And 2 wins and 1 loss, nothing to sneeze at. So that's it for round 3. Thanks for sticking with this kind of weird battle. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, observations, or concerns, and I will see you on the next one.